All right, so in this video, I'm going to get into why our mind is only operating at a fraction of its potential and how we can unlock its full power, how we can tap into our full potential as humans. And near the end of the video, I'm going to get into the actual superpowers you can gain when you make a simple shift in consciousness. But first, I'm going to talk about why we are a victim to our mind and why it is essentially the source of all our problems and all of our suffering. Oh, and by the way, this video was inspired by a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I love the way that he explains things very simply and eloquently, so highly recommend you check this book out. And I'm going to mention some of the things that he discussed in this book. So, what is the real source of our problems? Why do we suffer? It's because of our mind and it's because of our mental chatter. We have this inner narration going on that we never asked for. We don't even check its validity half the time. Half the time, it's actually wrong. The voice or the friend inside of our head, as Michael Singer calls it, it has been wrong so many times. And it actually likes to take both sides. It likes to play devil's advocate. It overreacts. It's really trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us away from danger. But in the process, it's keeping us from our potential. One of the things that Michael said in the book, he said, what if that voice in your head was an actual person? Would you take advice from that person? Nah, you wouldn't. You wouldn't trust it. Because you would see how many times that person has created something out of nothing. Our mind is creating all these artificial problems and scenarios that really aren't going to happen. And then we spend the rest of our energy trying to solve these artificial problems that our mind creates instead of just asking, why do I feel this way? Why am I thinking like this? And we go about our life trying to solve or change or control things externally instead of controlling our internal response to the external world. Things are going to happen to us that are completely outside of our control. But our thoughts have the ability to make us feel better or worse about whatever is going on outside of us. It's like I used to get so mad and sad when it was going to rain. And if I had plans and there was rain on the forecast, like I would be suffering because of it. And I'd waste all my energy just thinking, oh, this would be so much better if the weather was nice, if it were just a little bit hotter, a little bit cooler. But we can't change the weather. The problem is not that it's raining and life sucks because it's raining. The problem is that our chaotic and chattering mind is associating rain with something bad. I was tired of getting all upset about the weather that I just said, you know what? No matter what it is, I will be able to operate at my fullest. I will be able to have the most amazing day no matter what the weather is. And that was really the first step that showed me that my perception creates my reality. And my mental chatter wants to make sense of everything. It wants to control everything and it wants everything to go perfect. But we are creating so much suffering because of that. And once we take a step back and really observe what is going on in there, you are well on your way to unlocking the full capability of your brain. To stop being a victim of whatever it's telling you, whatever it's creating, and to get to the source of who you really are. Who are we? What is our true identity? It's not our mental chatter. It's not what has happened to us in this life. It's not where we went to school. It's not where we're from or where we live right now. It's not our height and weight. It's not anything to do with our body. It's not this artificial persona that we have built up or that we have been conditioned into throughout our lives. The whole time since we've been born, there's one thing that's remained constant, and it's not so obvious because it is silent. It is the observer. It is the part of us that is witnessing everything. It is our soul. It is pure consciousness or pure awareness. We are not the voice in our head, but we are the one that is aware of it. And we can start looking at ourselves and looking at our lives from this higher perspective. No longer attaching to whatever our mind is telling us, but the one that is just sitting back and just experiencing it all. It is the part of us that has no limits. It doesn't have any trauma. It can't be programmed. Those things, our mind and our body and our ego or artificial personality, those things are finite. Our soul is infinite. That part of us, that pure consciousness, pure awareness state has no end. And there are times, especially in meditation, if you have a lot of experience with meditation, where thoughts just completely stop. Or if you're deep in the flow state, you're deep into an activity, thoughts will just stop. Emotions will be really balanced, or you might not even have any emotions at all if you get into these deep states of meditation. Just pure presence. So our thoughts can stop and we are still there, right? We're still here. That means we are not the thoughts. We are not our mind. And when we get into meditation, I like to start my meditation sessions by just closing my eyes and just listening to whatever my mind has to say. All the stresses, all the worries, all the things I feel like I have to do right now. And then I make the separation. I stop feeding into those thoughts and I really just feel them all kind of like melt away. And from there, I've tapped into my true self. And I feel very free, very sovereign, very limitless in that state. I can quiet my mind on command. I can also let it run wild and see what it has to say, see what it can create if I want. We won't be free from ourselves, really, is what it is. We won't be free from ourselves until we really make the decision that enough is enough. We have to have the courage to let go and trust that things will work out for our highest good, and that worrying or stressing or feeding into all these scenarios that could happen in the future, there's no point in it. It's not going to help us out at all. So, like, there's some visualizations of what this looks like. Kind of complicated, but we'll start from the top. You got the universal mind, so you can call that collective consciousness. I do believe there's some kind of field where all of our minds, all of our energy, whatever is connected, because we are all one. And then a step down from that is pure consciousness. That is pure just existence, not really having any thoughts at all. And then you descend down and you get to higher emotional states like love and wisdom and peace and bliss. And then we go down, there's a neutral state there between positive and negative, and down below we have the negative emotions where our mind is essentially contaminated. So when we're lost in all of these thoughts, our mind is going a million different ways, and we are not aligned with our soul. We are not aligned with our pure presence state, where that is unity. That is not fragmentation. But when we're feeding into all these different thoughts, all the chaos that our mind is producing, our energy is so fragmented. We are just throwing all this energy out into shit that doesn't matter. When we're just observing and we are aligned with our soul, our energy centers or the chakras, which I will talk about in an upcoming video. I haven't really talked about those yet. Those will naturally start to align and will become more like an energetic column, right? A pure channel of energy with no blockages. This is when we really start to get our power back as a human, because in one of the past videos I talked about how our attention is like the most important thing that we have, but it is being hijacked. If we can control our attention, we start to become really, really powerful. And so it's time to start creating some new habits. It's time to really take a step back from your mind and start to analyze it. Analyze what the heck is going on and why it's happening. Anytime an emotion comes up or a limiting thought, belief, that is the initial stimulus. And we're going to take ourselves off of autopilot and start to become a sovereign being. So before we automatically respond to an emotion that we have or a thought that we have, we're going to just leave a little bit of space and just say, why is this emotion coming up? Why am I being triggered right now? Why am I thinking so negatively about myself? Why am I lacking self-confidence? And really try to get down to the root. Let the emotions chill out for a little bit, and then you can respond like you really want to. Respond like your higher self and not your lower self. This is really where our freedom lies. But a lot of us have just become like animals. I saw a video last night and it was like old school Black Fridays. You know how Black Fridays used to go crazy? People lined up at stores. I don't think that really happens anymore, but they opened the doors and people just were busting in there like wild banshees and having all out brawls over like TVs and shit. It's like we're really falling for this consumerist trap. This is crazy, but it's time to stop being a victim to materialism and short term things and everything that is thrown at us to try to hijack our energy and attention. And so here's a few practices to really free yourself. So, anytime you're triggered throughout the day, use these things that really annoy you. And I know you really, really, really want to act upon them to do something about them. But I want you to just take a second on that, pump the brakes, and be the bigger person. Start to analyze these things. What can you learn from them? And can you bring yourself back to your natural state presence? We want to start training awareness and existing to be our default state instead of automatic reaction and stop feeding all these thoughts. And so this is how we're going to release those triggers. We're going to notice that it's happening. We're going to control our physiology. We're going to control our body. First, starting with our breathing, breathe from our belly and slow it all down. Slowing our body down will slow our mental activity down and allow us to gain full control over ourselves instead of being in that automatic state. And then the big one for me that really makes me feel limitless, don't know why, but for some reason, when I relax my whole entire body, I just feel so expansive. So usually my jaw is tight, like my arms, my shoulders, my hands, my fingers. Let go of all that tension, all that stuck, built up energy. And really do your best to not push the trigger down or push the nagging thoughts down, but just kind of allow them to happen. Don't give them any more power. That's how we're going to transcend them instead of fighting them and giving them more energy. And then once you've chilled out for a second, you can choose your response. And so if we really detach from our mind, if we really become pure consciousness, we become the controller of our mind instead of the victim of it. We can do some pretty crazy shit. And all of the following, everything that I'm going to say is reducing to we get the ability to choose. We get sovereignty. That's what's underlying all of this. And the first one, gaining control over our focus and our attention. We already know why this is so powerful because our consciousness directs energy. Wherever our consciousness is, wherever our focusness, I said focusness, wherever our focus is, our energy flows there. And I truly think we can manipulate reality with our focus or shifting our focus. When we detach from our mind, we can also start to practice emotional alchemy. We actually become an alchemist. When we feel an emotion, it can actually move through us and leave us. We can release it. Instead of feeling all these negative emotions, trying to repress them, and they get stuck somewhere within us. And there's no like secondary suffering. We feel the feeling, see what we can take from it, see why it's happening, why we're being triggered, and detach from it and remember that we can control our internal state. Reprogramming ourselves also becomes a lot easier because remember, the true us, our true self, pure consciousness cannot be programmed, but our mind can be programmed. And when we're living in the awareness of that higher state above our mind, programming it becomes a heck of a lot easier. We can reframe things that happened in our external world really fast because we're no longer identifying with the outside world. We can start to flip scripts in our head, or we can change the stories that we're telling ourselves. We can more easily break old patterns, detach from them, and install new patterns and new habits that we want to create. We may tap into the ability to heal our body. I'm not trying to make any medical claims, but some experienced meditators can do some pretty crazy shit with healing and regeneration in their body and all that. If we can transcend our mental chatter and center ourselves in the quietness of and stillness of pure consciousness, we're going to tap into a whole nother level of creativity. When our mind isn't turbulent, we become like a channel of new ideas, downloads. And the left and right hemispheres of our brain are going to be more balanced so we can really combine logic and intuition and start thinking in a whole different way. We start to become aware of a whole lot more subtle things that are happening in life. You may be able to start seeing just pure energy. You may start to see patterns that you haven't seen before. You may start to get more synchronicities and dreams and certain sensations. You might just start to have these extra sensory experiences. And really, from this state, you tap into 0 point energy. And we know that comes with a slew of other possibilities. And really, this will allow us to transcend time and transcend space. You'll start to become aware of how the past and the future is influencing the present. You'll start to become aware of timelines. You'll start to become aware of how your perception of time changes. It's so fluid. And you'll be able to start to tap into the collective consciousness and get information from there. You may start to become telepathic or see the future or and really get back to unity consciousness instead of being caught up in duality and polarity. You'll start to really perceive how everything is one, everything is connected, how we're all energetically connected, and how you really influence everything around you, and how reality is really just a mirroring back your internal state. Everything is mirroring back your internal. And in this limitless, expansive state, fear isn't really going to happen. It may still be triggered, but you can let it go pretty fast. And if we really trust that everything is working out in our favor, everything is working out in our highest good, our life will reflect that. And transcending our mind, we realize that we can really just create any story that we want and it will become real. That's the power that we have. But I think in my future, the future I'm envisioning is that we are going to start to tap into these abilities. And this is only like scratching the surface. I think, or I hope, that technology of the future is going to really start to align with our higher nature and expand our senses instead of the technology that we have right now kind of dulls our senses, kind of dims our light a little bit. And my whole goal with this channel is to bring information that reminds you that you are a free being. You are a sovereign free being. It's not like we're trapped. Maybe some of the technologies are created so that we are trapped, but we still have the free will. We still have the ability to be sovereign. We just gotta remember it. So let me know what you think about that one. Hopefully it helped. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. We'll see ya.